The internet is cracked, the show that asks the question, can we coexist with our creation?
Hello, my name is Seth Camillo.
And I am Caroline Risberg, and we are The Internet is Cracked by Addicts for Addicts.
Today, we are lucky enough to be meeting with Shaun Steingold. Shaun has a very impressive and very varied background. Shaun worked at Hewlett-Packard for a number of years, culminating with being the program director of the Helium project. He was also founder and managing director of Momentum Labs. Momentum Labs acquires, scales, and sells mobile applications and businesses. Shaun is now CEO of Healthi, one of the leading weight loss apps and companies. So thank you for being with us. It's exciting to have you.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So I know Shaun because I'm a filmmaker, and we worked for about 5 months making promotional videos together for Healthi, and that was totally awesome, I have to say. We would talk daily, and it was really an exciting. I don't know how it was for you, but for me, it was a really exciting time because it was sort of just the two of us coming up with ideas.
It was a very entrepreneurial project.
Yes.
And I think that's what I enjoyed. And I got to see how the sausage is made from behind the camera.
Yeah.
And so engaging with you in kind of that entrepreneurial creative approach to figure out the story we wanted to tell, figure out the best way to shoot it and present it. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Today with Shaun, we are going to focus on what makes the internet just so wonderful as a place to do business, as a place to do social engagement, and all the rest, and AI. And because Shaun has been involved with the internet for a very long time and is very passionate about it, I think we really want to hear what drives him to be involved with this industry. He's a very, very smart guy. He could do anything with his life that he wanted to do, and he has chosen the internet. And maybe that's the first question. Why was that your choice? You could have done any business.
I could have. I think the answer to that is I didn't have a choice. This is the world we live in.
Yeah,
and we can fight it or push back on it. But at the end of the day, this is the world we live in. So I know you talk about being an addict.
Yeah.
I'm a willing and happy participant.
Okay.
I want to be swimming with the tide. I want to be enjoying it, and I want to be using it and maximizing it to the greatest degree possible. And by doing that, finds opportunities. And at the end of the day, yeah, it is making my life better. It is helping me to provide for my family. It's helping me to build companies, which employs people. So I get to train and learn and help people provide for their families. So if we think about what our lives contain day to day, there's very little that isn't touched by the internet.
That's very true.
That's true. That's very true. It is.
And I've been reading up on the conversations you all have been having with other addicts. And I know the dangers that are there, and we can never put our head in the sand and ignore them. I will also say that you never solve problems. You really only ever trade out one set of problems for another set of problems. So yes, the internet has solved a lot of problems for us, but it's created other problems. And those we have to be aware of and we have to deal with.
I mean, we cannot live without the internet today.
No, you can't.
And in many aspects, you do have a choice. And let's kind of be honest about this. When was the last time you walked into a bank branch? Because right now, it's much more convenient for me to sit at my kitchen counter. I can deposit a check from a mobile app. I can send both of you $2 or $200,000 at a touch of a few buttons. I can check my bank balance. I can take out a loan.
Yeah.
Is my
Yeah,
life
no, it's true. That's true.
better today because I can sit at my kitchen counter and pretty much take care of 95% of my banking needs?
Mm. That's very true. I had a friend who told me when she was pregnant, this is way before the
Mhm.
apps. And she
Yeah.
said, I never realized how hard it was she just had to get her baby and just to go to
Mhm.
the bank. It was like putting the baby in the stroller,
Yeah.
going to the bank. That took forever, in and out
Mhm.
of the car and all this. And you're right. I actually been thinking about that just because of our comments years ago.
Yeah.
And click, click, click. I haven't been in a bank. I don't know when. That's a very long time ago. You don't even take out cash, really. You don't really use cash anymore.
Another great example, I obviously have a very broad and extended family. If you think about parents, grandparents, their
Yeah.
cousins, and just how the family tree develops. And I was born in South Africa, so I have family in
Mm.
South Africa. I grew up in Australia. I have family in Australia. I now live in the United States. I have cousins, probably a dozen countries or more around the world. 20 years ago, it would be almost impossible for us to connect and
That's very true.
talk and share photos and memories. We've now got a WhatsApp channel with 60 people on it.
No, that's true. And I'm Swedish, and I can say the same. When I came to America many, many years ago, and I actually talked to my mom about this, who's still in Sweden, and how expensive it was to talk on the phone. It was
Yes,
so expensive. All my bills went to paying the phone.
very true.
Yeah. But that is true. Now we can do FaceTime. You can actually see her, you know?
Correct. And we can do a FaceTime call with 10 people on it in different
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah.
But I now have gotten to learn about family members that otherwise I probably never would have connected with.
Mm.
Right? And we get to share those milestones, whether it's a birth or a birthday or just
Mm.
somebody winning a soccer game. Like those
Yeah.
are little moments that, your phone dings, you look at your phone and you put a smile on your face.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Actually, it's a very, very good point. We became closer in that way, in many ways.
A bunch of my friends have left LA, and
Mhm.
we talk nightly, about
Yeah.
5 of us. Every night at around 8 to 10 PM we talk, and we
Mhm.
play a game. We play this game called it's Uno, essentially. And we spend
That's
2
fun.
hours on the phone with each other
I love it.
on
Yeah,
FaceTime,
I like that.
playing a game and
Mhm.
talking and giving each other a hard time.
And look what we can do right here. We can actually be on 3 different locations
Yes.
and
Yes.
have and doing a podcast.
Correct. And then, we can turn this conversation towards education and
Yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
Yeah.
because now knowledge is democratized.
Yes.
Anybody in the
Mm.
world can access any piece of knowledge almost essentially for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kids get exposure to more information. How they learn is now changing.
Mhm.
They're not necessarily being taught the whats. It's now the hows and the whys.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And when we think about growing up and becoming adults with responsibilities, it's that critical thinking to understand a situation that really starts to differentiate, people that can have the opportunity to be more successful with what they're doing.
Mhm.
I know it's important to be able to rattle off a date like in 1852, this event happens. But now we get to have the conversation of why did that happen?
So can I ask you a question? Do you feel like that the internet and artificial intelligence, because I know Sam Altman said with AI, he believes the first individual
Mhm.
billion-dollar valuation company is, just around the corner. So one person will create. Do you think that the internet has leveled the playing
Mhm.
field in many ways, business-wise, obviously, is
Mhm.
what's sexy to talk about, but also in terms of education-wise and other aspects of human life?
There are multiple statements included in what you just shared, and I want to try to pull apart a few of them one at a time.
Okay.
30 years ago, if there was a smart kid and this kid wanted to learn, what avenues were available to him or her to learn? They needed probably access to a school, and generally you needed access to a good school. And neither one of those two things were guaranteed. And you needed access to knowledge, which was content, essentially books.
Right.
So it would have been a set of encyclopedias or access to a library or maybe a newspaper. Again, those things were not guaranteed to people.
No.
Yeah, it's
Today,
true.
they just need an internet access. They may not have access to a school or a library or a newspaper, but with access to the internet, they can pull up YouTube, and there are hundreds and thousands of knowledge, training, and education-based content. What the Khan Academy has done, making learning available and accessible to almost anybody on a whole range of topics. Now, any students can learn and grow as much as they want and can continually be challenged too, right? We've all heard about these geniuses that almost failed school because they're operating at, say, a 10th grade level when they're in 5th grade. And then they get bored and they get frustrated and they start causing mischief and they get essentially run out of school. That's not going to happen today. And so I love that we grow up in an environment where almost everybody has the opportunity to access their full potential without any constraints because of the internet.
But it's still not easy. You still have to be, it's not like we can all just make billion-dollar valuation companies. You have to be brilliant to come up with something that would use ChatGPT in a way that would be valuable.
And now again, let's break that statement into a few different constituents here. Firstly, at the end of the day, there are only going to be a handful of AIs.
Yeah.
They're not going to be 1,000 different AIs out there. There's really going to be a handful. And then we're going to talk about applications, implementations of AI to build other products, other tools, other solutions. So whether it is Sam Altman and his OpenAI with ChatGPT or another, there'll be a handful of these that will power everything. They're going to be available to everybody. This type of compute has never really been available to individuals. We were talking about kids having a thirst for knowledge. They're now going to be able to use it. Your father's going to be used it in advanced academia, governments, companies, anybody. So it is going to create the opportunity for a lot of people to create some really impactful solutions using AI to create new products that you or I may use, using AI to solve complex problems. And from that, we do live in a capitalist society. And as these problems get solved and people engage with them, it will create businesses, it will create money.
Yeah.
And one other thing we have to remember, which the internet has created, and now as we think about where AI goes forward with us, we have universal distribution and access.
Yeah.
So in my intro, Seth, you mentioned I'm in mobile apps.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yes, one of the things that drew me to the mobile application world in the first place is the fact that we can have a mobile app. And right now, somebody can buy my product and use my product in Zimbabwe. Somebody can buy my product and use my product in Switzerland. Somebody can buy my product and use my product in the Bahamas. And my next door neighbor can too, all at the same time.
Yeah.
And the question I really love asking people is, what do you think that costs me? It doesn't cost me anything.
Marginal cost is zero.
Exactly. I get worldwide access and distribution and sales channels like this. And now I need to say thank you to Apple and Google because they provide that platform. And I do pay them a cut on every dollar that we receive. And that's, what we pay for access. But if you go back to a company like Coca-Cola is a great example. They were probably one of the first consumer businesses that we know that truly had worldwide distribution of their product. Right? You could go into almost any country in the world 20 years ago and buy a Coke.
Yeah.
How long and how much money do you think it took Coca-Cola to actually be able to build that infrastructure for its
Adjusted
business?
for inflation, billions and billions
Yeah.
and billions.
Bill, you're right. Like, it is B and multiple Bs. And I get it by pushing enter on my keyboard and authorizing Apple and Google to distribute my product for me.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. How do you, I mean, I'm just, how do you actually, how did this idea come up to start your fitness app? And how do you develop it? Like, how, I'm very interested in that. Like, how?
It's a great question because I think it brings so much of what we've been talking about full circle and it kind of
Yeah.
wraps it all up in a bow. I love the opportunity that apps gave me on two fronts. One was this worldwide distribution.
Mm-hmm.
The second is I wanted to find opportunities where a mobile app would compete against a real life tangible product. Because I made a little bet or a decision. I believe that if given the choice, a user or consumer would decide to use an app over getting in their car, driving to the mall, walking around, picking something up off the shelf, taking out a credit card, standing in the checkout line and coming home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Caroline, we were talking before about going into a bank branch.
Right. That's true.
You made the decision to sit at your kitchen table and
Yeah.
take out a phone and do your banking. There's nothing stopping you right now or tomorrow or next week getting in your car and going down to the branch. But you're making this decision to use an app which is powered by the internet and smartphones. And I love the opportunity that I could sell a product and the competition would be a tangible product. So let me give you an example. We talked about Healthi. Healthi is a diet and weight loss app. It helps people lose weight. And it does that by taking information about yourselves that you provide. You know, are you male? Are you female? What's your starting weight? What's your goal weight? How much do you want to lose? How much do you exercise? And then some information about what you eat. We give you a plan. And then you would track your food every single day. And through that, we would train your habits. You would learn to make smarter choices around food. And if done, reasonably successfully, you would be losing weight. We have an app called iNavX, INAVX, which is a marine navigation application. So if you're going to go fishing this weekend, or you want to get in a sailboat and sail from San Francisco to Sydney, today you can take out your phone or a tablet and you can navigate off that.
Oh,
Whereas
wow.
before, you had to have either an built-in unit in your vessel or a paper set of nautical charts, right? And we all remember in the cars, there was the paper atlas.
Yeah.
And then there were the little TomTom devices, these mobile devices that you would stick onto your dash. And then there were built-in screens with built-in navigation in the car. But what do 99% of people do today?
They use your device. They use their phone.
Yeah.
Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Google Maps on app. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So if I am, and so I kind of tell this whole story, but let's look at that last example for a second. If I gave you a choice to drive across the country from LA to New York using Apple Maps or Google Maps on your phone, or a set of paper maps in an atlas that are most probably 15 years old,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which one
No,
would you not only choose to use, but choose to spend your money on?
On Apple and Google Maps.
on Apple, Google. And I actually have drove in cross country twice, many, many years ago with the maps, and now with the Google. And yes, it's so much easier. And you can, when you drive, it's like, where are we going to eat? What are we going to do? What
Yeah.
kind of choices do we have? How do I get to the Grand Canyon? Or how do I get there? And how, what hotel? Because you couldn't do that before. So it's a big difference from when we drove cross country many years ago, and now that was like, oh my God,
Exactly.
this is easy.
And this
No,
brings
we
me to
wouldn't.
another thing that I find interesting, which is I worked. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I worked at the reason I know our mutual friend David Rudnitsky, or David Rudnitsky, is because I worked at an rentals.com internet startup back in the year 2000 and 2001, and we had 88 million from SoftBank and Sequoia, and we ultimately lost to apartments.com. But a lot of that had to do with the timing of the funding. We would have been successful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think it's interesting, like Caroline and I are not dependent upon, it takes very little money to run a podcast. And that's something that Sam Altman had said, that because he had such a big investment for Microsoft, they were allowed to fail, and they failed a lot before they succeeded. And I wonder if you could speak to that, to the nature of the way things are funded,
Yeah.
and people not being able to have the time to succeed on the internet that they maybe would have if you give them an extra year or two.
Yes. So funding is critical. Funding is a dual-edged sword. And I'll come back to that statement in a second because there are two sides here to cover.
Okay.
In general, nobody bats 1,000. You are never going to be right 100% of the time.
Right.
You are going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. Somebody else is going to beat you. That is reality.
Yes.
In baseball, batting 300 is huge, from the best
Incredible.
people. So that is 30% that they're
Failing,
successful.
if you only fail 70% of the time, you are making millions and millions of dollars.
Correct. In business, maybe it's a little bit higher than 30%. Maybe it's 55. Just remember how few people, and I'll say this truly, how few people actually beat the stock market in their investing returns, right? Some of the best investors in the world.
I have a BS in economics, so I know that the
Yeah.
fundamental truth of getting a BS in economics is that nobody without insider information beats the market. That's what you're told.
Exactly. So now when we look at business, we were talking about apps. Why did I get into apps? And I explained
Right.
about distribution and the preference. There's another thing which is inherent here in software, but it's something that I look at in all businesses. If I look at two competing businesses, they do the exact same thing. Let's just say it's restaurant A on this corner and restaurant B on that corner. If restaurant A makes 10% profits and restaurant B makes 15% profits, everybody's like, oh, restaurant B is better because it makes 15% profits, an extra 5%, I get more money. I look at it a little bit differently. I look at it and say, yes, restaurant B will always beat restaurant A. My answer to the why is it has more of a margin of safety in its business. That extra 5% that gets it to 15% profit margin allows it to make more mistakes because the mistake may not be as critical for them. It allows it to maybe invest a few extra dollars in new opportunities, in new technology or new innovations that may actually generate more revenues. So the extra profit margin essentially gives that business more stability and more opportunity at the same time by increasing its margin of safety.
And that speaks to why the more, like the angel investor, the more money you invest, the higher return you You
Yes.
get, I mean, it speaks to all those sort of economic truths about
Correct.
uh, about wealth begets wealth, basically.
Yes. And so you were talking before, and I went on a little bit of a tangent, but I wanted to kind of explain the point more broadly around investing and funding startups and companies. It gives them a margin of safety. It gives them an opportunity to invest in their business. It gives them an opportunity to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. It gives them an opportunity to try a lot more than maybe other businesses do. And so that is, fantastic. Because if I'm operating a business, I have to know my decisions are not going to be 100% right. I need the chance to make mistakes and to learn from the mistakes and try again. Now, when I say there's a double-edged sword, it's because too much money creates more problems.
Yeah.
And the main one is a lack of discipline, right? I can try and fail and learn and try and fail and learn as long as I have the discipline to understand and make conscious decisions about what I'm trying. If I can take the time to really learn by why it didn't work, and then be disciplined again about trying the next time with my new learnings. Well, one of the reasons a lot of startups fail coming out of the finance or venture world is they have too much money and not enough discipline. So they spend too freely. They don't have systems and processes and people in place to learn about what succeeded and what failed. It's just too easy to, hey, let's go try something else, take some money. Oh, go try something else, take some money. So there just has to be that discipline and feedback loop to ensure that when you have the money, you have the opportunity, and you get that margin of safety, you can still be effective in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen a lot like in restaurants, especially just to say restaurants, like who is very hard,
Yes.
I know. But I've seen when people they start it up and then they put the nicest bar, this, they're putting a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
But they still have no customers and it's fail like a few
Yeah.
days later. So I see what you're saying, like with money and the learning and
Correct. And that is, part of the reality that when there is so much money going in, you lose some of that opportunity to fail, right? There is more pressure. When we talk about a business, even a startup that gets funded and goes for a while and then maybe doesn't quite get there, that can be a 10, 15-year journey.
Yeah.
Some of these big movie productions for the director,
Yes.
they're not
Oh, yeah.
directing 4 movies a year. It's more like 1 every 3 or 4 years.
yeah, we
Exactly.
talked about that the other day.
So
Like
They
there's a
always
very
say first one to turn on the lights, last one to turn them off for a
there's a
director.
very big investment in time as well.
Yes.
And when we think about it, that is really the only currency in life that is not in infinite supply.
On that note, do you think that you are going to, or have you, maybe I'm not aware of it, are you going to try to put some AI into your Healthi app? Is that something you're
Yeah.
looking into?
I
Not
think
to spill any secrets or anything, but just
it's the same cycle as with the internet. We all know history repeats. And I don't remember who first made the quotes. I won't say the name because somebody can comment and say it didn't come from that person. But
okay.
yeah.
we learn from history that we don't learn from history. Right? The same cycles, the same patterns repeat.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we make the same mistakes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the internet started coming up, some people chose to embrace the internet. Some people chose not to embrace the internet. At the end of the day, everybody had to do it. AI is going to be the same. Do I know exactly what deployment or use of AI is going to be successful? No. But I will guarantee you that it's going to be as widespread and integrated in almost every facet of our lives as the internet is today. So, for example, you talk about the Healthi weight loss app. Weight loss journey's hard and it's confusing. And it's hard because it's an emotional struggle as much as it is a physical one. And it's challenging and confusing because a lot of time people don't have the right knowledge. Oh, should I eat this peanut butter or that cream cheese spread? But AI can serve the role in an application like Healthi to provide information. So again, we talked about people, truly finding kind of like the lazy way to complete tasks in their life. Now somebody can open their fridge, take out their phone with the Healthi app and say, is the peanut butter or cream cheese better for me on this weight loss plan that I'm on?
That's true.
And an AI implementation in Healthi can give them the right answer to that question. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
The AI tool can also get to know you. So some people get motivated by positive reinforcement. Some people actually get motivated by somebody shouting at them, like a bad coach.
Yeah.
Get off your ass. You can do that.
Yeah.
Well, if the AI tool can learn how you respond to motivation, maybe it starts your day off with a positive message crafted to your motivation journey.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So, it comes down to all these little things. It's not to say that I have any vision or knowledge as that this is where AI is going to work. Is that I just believe it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, I believe that too. And I was actually just thinking when you were talking about startup and how easy it is to, not easy, but like we have all the knowledge from everything. So let's say I want to start help with AI. I want to start a health app, right? And I will get all the information through AI, maybe how to do it, and blah 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 blah. What is the competition's going to be like? Like,
I
how
mean,
do
you are in a highly competitive market.
Yeah, I mean,
We are. Initially, the winners in different fields and deployments will differentiate themselves by using AI, right? They're just going to be first to do it. Their product at that time is going to be better, faster, cheaper than everybody else's. And at the end of the day, that is really how people win. You're better, faster, cheaper. There's a combination of those three factors. Yet within a period of time, it's going to be table stakes. Everybody's going to have it.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go back to the banking app. Does the Chase mobile banking app do anything different than Bank of America's or Wells Fargo's?
No.
No. Did one of those banks for a period of time have a competitive edge because they really just were the first to have a functional banking website? That gave them an advantage, but it was for a period of time, then everybody catches up. So I don't think in the long term, any company is really going to differentiate because they have AI, because everybody will. You'll still have to win by finding a way to have your brand find its audience and connect with those people.
Right. And
have their
maybe
product
be
like
original in some kind of way. Can you be original when there's so competitions? I mean, I'm just asking because I'm very curious about this.
I always chuckle because I think Hollywood predicts the future better than any futurist or technologist. Hollywood predicts the future. Terminator. How far-fetched does Terminator feel today?
My movie.
Let's go further. how many big wars in movies, future movies,
Yeah.
were fought over resources,
Yeah.
right? Whether it was people and countries or
Mhm.
aliens in sci-fi movies,
Right.
Yeah.
Why in every alien movie do the aliens come to Earth? They wanted the resources.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I love how the movie WALL-E ends.
Mm.
Remember the Pixar movie WALL-E?
Yes. Yes.
I don't remember how it ends though.
How are humans categorized in WALL-E?
Well, we're just
I don't
They
remember.
were these lounging blobs
we were blobs
on
of wood.
automated
okay, yeah.
sun chairs,
Yeah.
floating in space on a ship,
We just sort of
designed
lit.
to look like a beach club.
Yeah.
They didn't have to get up or do anything because AI and robots basically took care of every single requirement
Right.
to have a society function. And when we sit here and we talk about AI and people get concerned about, what's going to happen to jobs, what's going to happen to
Right.
opportunities for people, I look at something like WALL-E and I'm like, that's maybe not that far-fetched. That might feel a little real.
It is true. I mean,
It's very true.
my grandfather was a very successful engineer. He owned his own company that made stuff for the military. So he met military,
Yeah.
he was an impressive guy. But then on the other hand, he's Jewish, and he decided, living in New York, that there wasn't enough pastrami in the rest of America. So he put in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and he got my mom and my grandmother to help him to sell pastrami. And guess what? Nobody outside of New York in 1951 or 2 wanted pastrami. and so and so it's because he's kind of legendary in the family as this, brilliant man who started companies and sold them.
Yeah.
But we always never forget the pastrami, and talking about making mistakes.
I love the story about the pastrami. Why didn't it work? You shared that he didn't realize that people outside of New York didn't want pastrami. It was not that they didn't want it. It was that they didn't know about it.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of a distinction there.
true.
So there is a customer education perspective.
Yeah,
You may have the best product for whatever it is, but if your audience or your potential customers don't know they need it yet, you're going to fail.
yeah,
So the best businesses really succeeded because they got product market fit, right? That's kind of the industry term. Product market fit is saying the people you're trying to target want your product, and it's your product that they want.
But it does take time, and it does take that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
And it takes that diving into the dark that I think
It does.
is a real impediment for a lot of people. Like even doing this this project for Caroline and I. I mean, we've been discussing it for years. It's something we're passionate about, and I think we got ourselves into a position where we're very comfortable diving. You know what I mean? But it's not just something that would have happened after one conversation.
But then my question is in all this, because as you said, competition.
Yeah.
Billions of people. We are far from original doing podcasts. How would you say, how do people becoming like Rogan? Like why? Okay, he's famous, but I mean, like what is it that makes? Because I'm sure that's well, we know billions of people who would talk about this topic too, but how do you stand out? How do you? That's a hard one.
Yeah. I think a couple of things have really happened here. As with anything, the truly world-class in their field are going to have an opportunity to rise to the top. Right? We can all run. Not all of us are Olympic sprinters.
Right.
in the movie world, there are a lot of good actors, and there are millions of actors that were exceptional but never got their break.
True.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Nicole Kidman. Some people did just make it.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the podcast world, Joe Rogan and others, like, yes, through some combination of luck and talent, they got to be the superstars.
Can I interject one thing?
Uh-huh.
Because I have thought, and we have both thought about this, obviously, for extended periods of time, is that the numbers vary, but something like 99% of podcasts don't make it to 21 pod episodes. And this is about jumping into the dark. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah,
And Joe Rogan started his podcast with he just wanted to talk to people. And he would put it on the internet. He didn't know that people were watching it till one day he was at a stand-up gig and he says, does anybody ever see this stuff I put online that goes on for 4 hours? And all of a sudden everybody clapped it. And he said that was the first moment because I didn't pay attention, i.e. he was willing to make the leap. And I think it is like actors. A lot of people go to LA for a year. And I think making the leap is the barrier to entry in a lot of ways. Obviously, you have to be talented.
Right.
You have to be talented because if Joe Rogan's podcast was bad, nobody would listen to it.
Nobody would listen to it.
Very
So
true.
it is the combination of talent and luck.
Yeah.
I love what you shared that most podcasts don't go over 21 episodes.
I think it's
Why
even
is that?
less than that. Yeah. Very
Well,
few.
Why are they stopping?
They're scared.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if they're scared. They're not stopping because of funding. So it doesn't cost anything to make a
Right.
podcast. They're not stopping because somebody is canceling their show
No.
because you don't need to be booked by a network. They're really stopping because of some combination of they don't want to do it anymore or they didn't persevere for long enough. I want to try it. I want to be the next Joe Rogan. But if I didn't get there after 5 episodes, not worth my time, I'm going to go somewhere else and do something different.
that's very true.
You were correct in sharing, 2 very key points there.
Mm.
Most podcasts don't go beyond, I don't know what the number needs to be, 21, 7. But also Joe Rogan just kept on doing them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
So-
it's true. I mean, it's like a musician, you're not going to be the greatest musician just because you pick up a guitar. It's going to take, years to be really, really good or whatever it is.
Well, that's why I always said San Francisco is the Hollywood for smart people. It's that feeling that you can just show up and you're going to come up with something. I'm smart. I've got you can have a 165 IQ. I graduated high school at 15, so I'll just show up in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and it'll all work out for me. But that's not the way it goes.
That's not the way it goes. When we talk about the internet and we talk about are we addicts and we've talked about what the internet has actually created in this world, for most of human history, to be successful as a human, you truly differentiated yourself on your physical attributes.
Yes.
I needed to be bigger, stronger, faster. Right? That is how most people in human history succeeded.
Yeah.
This last century, as the technological evolution took hold and really expanded when the internet came out, that no longer was the case. It really gave people the opportunity in this society to succeed by being smarter, more knowledgeable, being able to leverage information. Now, there's a combination of these things. It doesn't necessarily mean that if your IQ is not in the top 10%, you're not going to be successful, and you're not going to be successful in Silicon Valley or in technology. But I think it changes the attributes which enabled people to have a successful life.
That's a very good point, and a very good point to
Yeah.
end on.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very
And
good point.
I hope all three of us have those attributes.
Well, you do. You do,
Well,
Shaun.
Shaun,
You
Shaun,
do.
you've already
You got
proven
it.
that you. Now
Yeah,
it's up.
you
Now
have
it's
it.
up to South Carolina.
Yeah,
I just come back to persevere.
Perseverance.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
I'm
like
just
that.
going to try again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so very much. It's been
Yeah,
so great
thank
to
you.
talk to you, and it brings back good memories of creating videos with you, creating work,
Yeah.
and I hope we
it's
get to talk to you
fantastic.
again. You have such great insights into this
Yeah.
industry. So
I
thank you
hope
very,
so,
very
too.
much.
Thank you for
I
being on our
enjoyed this
show.
and would love to come back.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching or listening to The Internet is Crack. Tune in next week when we have another great conversation about robotics, AI, and the internet. You can watch us or listen to us on YouTube or Spotify or many other outlets. And don't forget to follow us on social media. See you next Monday.